friend Dyer, and you are watching a Dyer-Situation. Today I am going to be seeing American Sniper. Now, last movie I saw was Imitation Game. I knew a little bit about it, like the main, lead actor and a basic plot development, basic plot premise and stuff. With this movie, I know nothing. The only thing I know about this film is that it's nominated for Best Picture, and I presume it has something to do with a sniper who is American. That is all I know. I don't know anything about the lead actor. I don't know anything about the plot. I don't know anything about anything. I haven't even seen a trailer. Even though I know that they exist, this isn't like, well, exists, where the trailer doesn't exist, but but yeah, I just haven't seen it. I don't usually watch television anymore, and hasn't been advertised on the internet sites I go to. So there you go, I haven't seen it. Well, I haven't seen any trailers for it, is what I mean. I'm going in here blind, and we'll see what happens. Right, so before I give my full opinion, let me make it perfectly clear that when I am criticizing something in this movie, or saying something nasty or whatever, it's directed entirely towards the movie itself, not towards the people or events it's based on. That goes for any movie I do based on real life circumstances. But just putting that out there so, you know, you don't get offended by it. What I didn't realize is that this movie, it has a lot of similarities to Imitation Game. Quite a few, actually. They're both based on real events. They're both focusing on a single character. And said character is involved in a war, essentially. Both of them are exceptional in their league, and both have ups and downs in their life that eventually end in tragedy. But the difference is, whereas the Imitation Game was inspiring and actually made you think a little, this movie is really dull. And I mean really dull. But how do I put this? I think the main reason I find it so dull is that it doesn't really seem to have a point to it. I don't see any reason why it was made, any, like, good reason why it was made. Like I said, the Imitation Game, very clearly it was made to inspire and to educate and to, well, make you think about certain moral choices. That was its point, and it expressed that pretty well. Another wartime movie you could compare this to is Platoon. Platoon was, in my opinion, made to expose, and it was also made to make you think about the stuff you don't quite see in these things. With this movie, I got nothing out of it. I got no, like, lessons, no real character. I didn't get anything that made me want to be invested in it. And yes, some exciting things do happen, but you never quite connect with this main character. He always seems to be very distant from everyone, including the audience. There's one or two exciting scenes in there, but they're mostly exciting because they're involving the murder of young children. Which, you know, in and of itself is very, gripping. Like, I don't know many people who would be able to turn their head away from the screen at that, but it's not because the character himself is that good. You could have put fucking Barney the dinosaur in that guy's spot, and it would have had the exact same effect. So I think that's really where it fails there. And Another thing is, most of the time, this is about 95% of the time, it's just plain boring, very predictable. Like, not as predictable as Big Hero 6, but, like, you could predict things about 15 minutes in advance. There's this one guy who's like, I'm getting married soon! I'm going to go home and get married to this lady. You're dead. Let's see, what else? The wife of the main character doesn't like he's in war. Oh, I wonder if this will escalate until she threatens to divorce him. What do you know? It escalated until she threatens to divorce him. And it doesn't feel exciting. It doesn't feel like you're really being a part of this guy's life. Like, I think that's what they were going for there. It didn't feel that way. It felt dull. And the other 5% was kind of silly. And what do I mean by silly? Well, for whatever reason, and this is confusing me, towards the end they started introducing a really comical bad guy. I can give you two. There's one guy who wields an electric drill, and he actually does have a pretty intimidating scene. But like he wields an electric drill like you know, some sort of comic book villain. And then the other guy who's even sillier, he's an enemy sniper. And like during different points in the movie, he's jumping from building to building. Like like he's Deadshot from like the Batman series. He's just going around and he's like super sniper. Like they're mentioning he's sniping things from 1,000 meters away, like a fucking kilometer away, like with pinpoint accuracy too. And I'm not sure why they decide to include that in a movie that's otherwise so serious that it's dull. As I mentioned, the Intimidation game, it kind of got the balance a little better with that, being a true-to-life story and just nudging some things one way and some things the other. This movie was clearly doing that too, but for whatever reason they decided to make it even more boring. Or at least not less boring enough, if you understand what I mean. And that's the main thing they tried to do. They tried to give him a villain. And at one point there was a sandstorm coming in, and it's a huge comical sandstorm. And it's coming in within the next few minutes! You gotta be excited! But the problem is, you're not connected to the characters, and you're not entirely sure what their mission is at that point, and you don't get that invested in it. It seems to me like they were mostly banking on the idea of, these guys are terrorists, and they're trying to hurt American soldiers, so you should feel invested. When really, you know, that is all well and good in and of itself, but it's not enough to carry a movie, at least not in my opinion. In fact, when I think about it, considering how recent this movie is and how, I mean, like, how recent the events of this movie are, in fact, I'm pretty sure this movie was made almost, seemed to be made very quickly after the main character met with tragedy. I'm starting to wonder if this might be some sort of glory project. Like, it may be something to help to make his family feel better, make his family feel like they had a great dad, a great husband stuff. That's good, you know. I see nothing wrong with that, except there's other ways to handle that to where it can also be entertaining for an audience. And, you know, I understand if you want your dad to seem like a great person, and I'm sure he was, but the point is, you can't just, like, over-glorify a guy or skim over some details assuming people know. 'Cause I didn't really know this person, but at the end they expected me to, as if the movie and the events going on in real life around me were enough. But, you know, I looked him up right before I did this review, and, you know, yeah, he does seem like a pretty good guy, but I'm pretty sure the movie could have been handled better to make him seem like a great guy. If I'm making any sense at all. The movie's boring, that's the short story. It's very boring. I think what I would compare this to the most is that Robin Hood movie starring Russell Crowe. Now, if you don't know, that movie is probably the most accurate Robin Hood depiction ever made. Because it's gritty, it's set in set in more realistic medieval era, like with the king and all that, and Robin Hood is a three-dimensional character. And that movie went on for what felt like years and was really dull. Things happened in it, but I don't remember details. It was just boring. And that's pretty much this movie. I'm sure it was a lot more accurate than The Imitation Game was, but it was very boring. So boring. And I don't think it's the actor's point. Like the guy playing this character, he's a good actor, I can tell, but the direction was very much off, and the writing probably could have used some work too. But it was mostly, in my opinion, the direction that went wrong with this. And maybe that was the outside influence, like maybe the family was pressuring them to subdue certain things. And I don't think it was in the best interest of the movie. And you really got to take some of these things into consideration when making a film like this. And yeah, I understand. I'm sure he was a great guy, but in my opinion, if you want to honor someone's memory, you make them a really good movie instead of just a pretty bland movie that makes him seem like a good guy or makes him seem rounded. Well, you know what I mean. You kind of know what I mean. I'm sure. But that's really all I have to say about it. I think this definitely could have been pretty good if it was given a better director, or maybe a more assertive director, if that was going on behind the scenes. I'm just making guesswork. I don't know if his family was involved in this at all. It's just, that's what it comes across. And if you want to see it, I bring a pillow, honestly. Or, I don't know, maybe if you're like really into Call of Duty or something and you just like gunfights and stuff like that, maybe you'll find it fun. But for me, it just dragged, and it wasn't a very enjoyable experience. Not much more to say. Until next time, I'm Glenn Dyer, and you have been watching a Dyer Situation.